Welcome to the 30-minute hour. It's the personal development podcast for the seven-figure entrepreneur who's looking to level up and become unstoppable. I'm your host, Eric Twiggs, your procrastination prevention partner. And joining me as always, you know him as the super CEO, the business strategist extraordinaire, and all-around good guy, Ted Fells.
Happy Monday.
Yes, it is indeed a happy Monday. And the Monday is going to get even happier because we're going to talk about the three critical roles to fill in your professional network.
Hmm.
And I was talking to our guest backstage, and I said I wish I had met her years ago before I started networking, and even like when I was, you know, working in different corporate America positions. I mean, these three roles really, if you focus on what we talk about today, can really help you to elevate. It can help you to elevate your career. If you're working for corporate, it can help you to elevate even in business and take what you're trying to do to the next level. So this
Hmm.
is definitely something everybody needs to pay attention to. So let's go ahead and bring on our guest. Let's just go ahead and do it, Ted.
Let's go ahead and do it. Bring the guests on. Let's
Yeah,
go.
we don't
Let's
need to
go.
we don't need to belabor the point.
Yeah,
All
let's
right,
go. It's
there you
getting
go.
late. Let's go.
Let's do this. All right. So our guest, she's an advocate for women's empowerment. She collaborates with individuals and teams to identify their unique strengths, to set strategic goals, and develop actionable plans for success. By unlocking the potential within each woman, she aims to achieve impactful outcomes and sustainable transformations. So also, there's something you need to know about our guest. I know this is really going to make Ted happy. She is a graduate of Hampton University.
HU. I
I,
think we lost him.
right, I think we're having an IT issue right now. I'm going to have to call the IT folks, see what's going on with Ted's picture.
Something's wrong with my connection.
And she's also a proud member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated.
That's right.
We can have a panhandle meeting on this episode. We got a Kappa, a Q, and a Delta. All right.
Let's do it.
So please join me in welcoming to the 30-minute hour, Tynetta Dance.
Good evening. So excited to be here.
Yeah, so excited to have you on. Uh, I definitely wanted to give you a shout out just for the clarity of focus that you have that you demonstrate as far as your topic and even like your target audience. As I'm just curious, like what was your vision for your career back when you were at Hampton University as an undergraduate?
So, funny enough, coming out of high school, I thought I wanted to be a computer scientist, right? We go in and they're like, what do you want to do with your life? And I'm like, well, what career is going to make me the most money? So I get to Hampton, I take my first class, and I realize these people don't talk. And I can't live without communication. So I took my first class and I was like, time to change and to do something new. So I transitioned over to business management and information systems. And I actually, when I came out of high school, so I had an internship with Inroads Baltimore.
Hmm.
And I worked for a Liberty Mutual Insurance Company. So I was very much blessed to really already have my job lined up for me beforehand. So I was an intern for 4 years. I worked every summer. I worked every Christmas break. And so when I graduated, I already had a job lined up for me as a bodily injury claim specialist. So my vision was very clear. I already knew where I was going and what I was doing.
Hmm. Awesome. So, I mean, did that something that just came natural to you, or were they just like life circumstances, or?
Yeah. So I guess you can say it kind of came natural, right? The stars just kind of aligned. I was that high school kid that everybody kind of not laughed at, but they knew I had a plan, right? There was always a 5-year plan, and in that 5-year plan, I'm looking at what am I doing next year, where am I going to be in 3 years, and ultimately in 5 years. And so I'd always had something planned out. I mean, I've been working since I was 12 years old. Right. You don't hear that as common, right, with our generation, but I worked in a hair salon, right? I was sweeping floors and folding towels. the ladies took a liking to me. So I started shampooing hair, right, and getting little tips. And by the time I turned 14, the receptionist had a sudden medical emergency in her family and she had to quit her job. And so the manager came to me and she said, "Hey, if you can get your worker's permit, you can take her job and become the receptionist." And I did that. I went to school that Monday and I came back Monday afternoon with my worker's permit. And they had seen my work ethic and my dedication over the years just as a kid, right? I came in every weekend to get my little tips. And so it was just something that was, was in me. I've always had a job or multiple jobs at a time, right? I've worked in a nail salon. I worked in a hair salon. I worked in a clothing store, right? I always had a job lined up and I had my little, my little cash in my pocket.
That's great. Okay. So now I'm curious, like if you could go back and be a mentor to the undergraduate version of yourself based
Mhm.
off of what you know now, like
Mhm.
what advice would you give to that younger version of yourself?
Oh, that's a good one. So I would probably say don't take yourself so seriously, right?
Mm,
I've always been that business minded and focused, which is good, right? I wouldn't take the mentality away, but I would say take a little more time just to enjoy yourself and have fun, right? I was so
mm,
focused on the future. And I think part of that was just my upbringing. I watched my parents' work ethic and it was just in me, right? I watched my grandmother's work. It's just something that was in me. And um, yeah, I think if I had just taken a little more time to just breathe and enjoy it, I think now looking back at those collegiate years, I don't really feel like I necessarily missed out. I just wish I spent more time just enjoying, being a collegiate and just having some fun.
yeah, I think when I was in college, I had the opposite challenge of you. I think I had too much
Right,
fun.
right, right. Fun. That's what we did. We had fun.
No, I was working. I was running a whole business out of my dorm room.
Oh wow.
So I did hair and I did nails. And so I had a roommate, and she was actually my best friend from high school. And so our agreement was she could not complain about me having clients in and out of the room, and she had to manage my books. And I would do her hair, and she wanted her nails done free for the entire year. So I had hair days and I had nail days, and she managed my books, and that was my thing. And I think I got so caught up with making so much money as a kid, right? It kind of took over. So sometimes it was like, oh no, I'm not going to the party Friday night because I have three clients lined up and I'm gonna make a couple $100 over here. If I could go back and do it differently, I would maybe take a few less clients, go to a few more parties. I still enjoyed it. I still lived life, but yeah, I think I could have been a little less focused on the business and the money at that time, but it is what it is.
But it sounds like it feels just from talking to you, it feels like you just kind of have that entrepreneurial thing about you
Yeah.
that it's just in you. So it's going to pay off, as you're continuing to do what you're doing now. So I'm curious, like, so you're the founder of Unlike You Coaching and Consulting.
Hmm.
Like, what was it that motivated you to even start this?
So funny enough, like as a Christian, right, I believe that everything happens for a reason. Becoming an entrepreneur, especially right now, was not on my radar. I've been in leadership for over 20 years, and a class had come on my radar, and I had someone say, "Oh, you should take this class. You will be great at it." It was called Leader as Coach. And I took the class, and as we went through the exercises, there was like, oh, you're really good at this. You're a natural. This is something that maybe you should pursue. Is this something that you've been doing for a long time? And I'm like, no, but cool. Yeah, it's fun. I took the class because I wanted to be a better leader within my organization and to really figure out how to be an even more effective communicator and to help with coaching my team. At that point, I didn't understand what most people don't understand, the difference between mentoring and coaching. Very different. And
Mm,
so this course really opened my eyes to help me to understand. And it gave me a different set of tools to, again, be a more effective leader. And so a couple of years had gone by, and I was presented with an opportunity to actually go through coaching certification training. And so I said, why not? I'll take the training and see. Well, I took the training and absolutely fell in love with the methodology, right? We went much deeper into coaching and how to coach and how to listen at that level 3 for understanding than we did any other class. And other individuals in my cohort had LLCs and things set up. And I was like, you know what? Let me think long term. This is a great retirement plan. So I
Mm.
set my LLC up and I started working, and it just grew legs out of nowhere. Here I am, right? It
Mm.
wasn't something that was on my radar, but obviously God had other plans. And so I'm just being obedient and following his steps and seeing where this whole thing takes me.
Okay. And you brought up something that we probably do need to clarify for our followers. The difference between, 'cause I think this is a great thing. This is a
Hmm.
conversation I have with people all the time. The difference between mentoring and coaching. What's the difference?
Yes. So very different. And I'll actually I'll do you one extra. I'll also go into counseling, right? That therapy. So I say that mentoring is typically when you have an individual who is very much experienced in a certain field or in life and something that you aspire to be. And so you go to a mentor for advice and for guidance to help you to figure out what path you should take. They may share their experiences, what worked for them, what didn't work for them. They may actually introduce you to some folks, right, to help you to continue to expand your network. A coach, on the other hand, is not giving guidance. A coach isn't giving advice. Your coach is actually pulling goodness out of you because the reality is you know you better than anybody else. So it's really a conversation to figure out what is going to work best for you, because just because it worked for me doesn't mean it's going to work for you, right? So your coach is really helping you to develop that action plan to get to the next level. But your coach isn't talking to you about their experience. It's very much you or client focused. It's all about you. It's all about your experience, and it's all about helping you figure out how to get to that next level. And then I'll say, from a therapy standpoint, while coaching can be therapeutic, and coaching can bring some emotions and things out of you that you never expected, right? Which can lead to you seeing a therapist, but a coach is not a therapist. I think it would be very irresponsible of us as, coaches to try to diagnose and guide people, right? Obviously, these are individuals, your therapists, that are trained and highly qualified individuals to really help people to dig into that past trauma. And what you don't want to do is cause more harm than good, digging into somebody's past and not really knowing how to deal with that trauma to help them to get over it. So while therapy really deals in your past and helping you to heal and recover from those things, coaching is all about your future and how do you get from this desired state to whatever your future goals are.
Great explanation of that. Thank you. Thank
Mhm.
you. Yeah, it's definitely, especially when you start getting into counseling, which is about, oh, tell
Absolutely.
me about your childhood, this and that.
Mhm.
Yeah, the coaching, you're moving things forward. So good. I just wanted to
So,
make sure.
so
Go ahead, Ted.
let me ask you this question. So, when you're looking for a mentor or a coach, like what are some of those characteristics that you should take into consideration for either?
Yeah, so both of them are really like dating, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you got to kiss a few frogs to figure it out. Unfortunately, I feel like people give up too quickly on both if they don't make an instant connection, but you have to figure it out. So I'll say, from a mentor standpoint, I'll start there. I think having a mentor bench is really important, right? You don't want to have one mentor and just get one.
Perspective.
Exactly. Right. You want to have, in my opinion, a nice cadre. I think that you should have a mentor who looks like you, who can relate to you and help you through some of those more personal challenges, somebody who you can really let your hair down with and be vulnerable and talk through situations. In that relationship, it may be, oh, hey, I had this experience as well. Well, how did you deal with that situation? Well, what do you suggest? Right. That's that mentor relationship. I think that you should have a mentor that looks nothing like you and you have absolutely nothing in common with, because this is an individual who's going to really push you and challenge you, right? When they say play devil's advocates, just looking through a different lens may help you to see things in a different perspective. I think many times we lean towards comfort and with people who tell us what we want to hear, but not always what we need to hear. And so I challenge people to get a mentor that's going to push you and challenge you. It may make you a little bit uncomfortable, right? Because there's no growth in comfort and there's no comfort in growth. So I think that you should definitely, expand that network. And I think then also mentors who are within your technical field, maybe outside of whatever your field of expertise is. But I would say maybe like have a handful of mentors that you can lean on for different things, right? Just like you have friends that may fulfill different needs for you, right? It's the same thing with mentors. From a coaching standpoint, I think it's kind of the same thing. You want somebody who you can really be vulnerable with and to establish a relationship where you feel like it's a judgment free zone. That's the biggest thing about coaching, right? It's not about what I think or what I think you should do, or if I'm judging you for the decisions that you've made. It's me helping you to put things in perspective. So it's really your ability to connect with somebody who you feel like, again, you can be vulnerable and transparent with, and you can have a conversation and kind of share some of your deepest thoughts, knowing that it's a confidential relationship, right? But also one that's going to help you to grow. If you're in a relationship with a coach where it's just them asking you a bunch of questions and you don't feel like you're growing, it might be time for you to think of meeting with somebody else, right? The market is oversaturated with people saying they're coaches, but they're not really coaching. They're doing like a mix of, maybe a little more consulting or actually doing mentoring, but not coaching. For me personally, I'm not telling people what to do, but I'm listening to what you're telling me, and I will challenge you. Well, when are you going to do that? And how are you going to hold yourself accountable? And what's your deadline? What are your milestones? Those are the types of questions that you should receive from your coach that's pushing you forward to make sure you're continuing to move the needle.
Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think you said it earlier. I think a great coach can listen at level 3, right? They can hear they can hear what you're not saying.
Right.
Mm.
Right.
They
And
can
for people who don't, really quickly, for people who don't understand what that level 3
yeah,
is, that level 3 listening is you listening to understand, right? You're
right.
not listening to respond. You're in a space where you're very curious and you're asking questions so that you really understand, because a lot of times it's just that person that's talking to you and they're resolving and figuring their own problems out, right? Because you're just giving them the space and the opportunity to do so. So
Mm.
sorry to cut you off there.
No, that's
Yeah.
good. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. So, unlike you coaching, so
Mhm.
why how'd you land on that? Unlike you coaching.
Oh, so I went back and forth with so many names, and I'm like, well, what does it mean? And at the end of the day, I want people to be able to unlock that vault, right? And really be able to walk in their purpose unapologetically and not feeling like they are questioning or second guessing themselves, right? So I actually established my framework out of that, right? The U is understanding what it is that you want, right? What are you actually trying to achieve? Never compromising on your morals or your values, um, leveraging your network and your resources, really operating at your full potential and owning your boundaries, right? Operating within those boundaries. When you have to establish boundaries and you have to own them if you want other people to respect them and follow them, right? And it's understanding not being competitive, but really looking at how to establish strategic partnerships, right? I talked about that in my clip, this week. And the K is really knowing your value, know what you're worth, and not being afraid to say no, because all money isn't good money, right?
Mm.
And really understanding how to demand that you are compensated for your education, for your expertise, and what you bring to the table. And lastly, really just unlocking that growth mindset and really tapping on your full potential and realizing that the sky is the limit when you do so.
Hmm, okay. And who's your target audience?
Yeah, so I'll tell you. So it's funny, and when you go into why I established my business, it's really working with women, right? As women, so many times what I'm finding is that we are so very humble by nature. So I'll give you an example. If you, I've worked with several women who will see job ads, right? And these ads will have 10 qualifications for the job. And they will go down that list and qualify for the first 9, but will get to number 10 and don't have that qualification and will be hesitant and question or second guess whether or not they're the right fit with that for that position.
Mm.
Versus what I found with male counterparts, right? And I still do, coach and do executive coaching with males as well, right? And what I found is out of those 10, if they have one qualification, they're throwing their name in the hat and they're like, I'm it, I'm the CEO, right? It's just totally different.
That's
And
funny.
so, I really want to help women to be able to step out on faith, right? Hit that apply button, right? Stop being so modest and just understanding, like in business, like embrace your strengths. And if that 10th thing on the list isn't your strength, you have an opportunity to work on it and to grow, because that's the only way you're going to continue to elevate. And the other thing is making sure you lean on the strengths that you do have while you're growing. You can still be an asset almost immediately in most of these jobs. So for me, it's really helping, and I say women in general, but I have to say that it is really women of color that I'm seeing this with more often than not. And so that's really been a lot of my clients that I've been working with.
Okay.
That's interesting, because I think about that in my company, and a lot of some ladies that work for me, and I'm like, I put them in a certain position and I tell them I'm confident in them doing it, and it's like you said, if they don't feel like they know everything
Mm-hmm.
under the sun about it,
Mm-hmm.
then they're just not comfortable with it. I'm like,
Yep.
no one knows everything. No
Yep.
one knows everything. Just like jump in it. Like, you got all these things. You got this. You got all these certifications. You got all this education. Just jump in it, and it's really, that's interesting. But you're right though. Guys will be like, "Yep, I'm that." You need me to be the vice president,
right?
I'm all over that. I'm all over that.
I want to be the
Absolutely.
CEO. It's my first
What is
day.
it that we do? What is it that we do again?
Right. Yeah.
That's funny.
It's amazing, but yeah, really just giving women that confidence to do it, right? And then I think the other thing is really expanding, that pipeline for women in leadership in general. Even now, when I go into meetings, I'm often still the only woman, the only person of color, the only woman of color, right? And so I want to be able to see that difference. And so for me, it's my ability to help, right? Every woman at a time, right? One at a time, whatever it takes, just to help to continue to grow and change the landscape.
So what else? I mean, other than, thinking they have to be 10 for 10 on qualifications, what are some other things that keep people from achieving their potential?
Yeah. So another thing for women, right? I think a lot of times we get caught up in our roles, right? And it is, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a best friend. And that can be very much consuming. And sometimes we lose ourselves in those roles and our identities. So it's really a lot of times about rediscovering yourself, right? And your value and what you're interested in, not what your partner wants to do, not what your kids want to do, right? What is it that interests you? What is it that motivates you? So getting them to a place where they can sit and just breathe and figure out what it is that they're interested in, and to not be afraid to take some risks, right? Take a chance and go out and live life and do what you want to do. That's why I said just being, unapologetically you and being true to you. And that really, it has an impact on their personal lives as well as their professional lives, right? But when you get to a place where you are confident in who you are and what you want, and you're able to establish those boundaries that you are operating right within those boundaries, then I find that these women are able to really come out of that shell. And that's what builds the confidence, right? As they come out of that shell and they're taking that job and they're, being complimented and they're being promoted and they're being rewarded and recognized. That's what's building that confidence and their ability to continue to move forward and to not be afraid to apply for the next job or the next job, right? A lot of times what I'm seeing is that it's not that the women aren't qualified, but they don't have the support. They don't have the sponsorship. They, often don't have the mentors. Our white counterparts have been being coached for decades, right? This is something that's new that's being introduced to a lot of us. So it's really just providing that that safe space and that opportunity. I also feel that sometimes just as a woman of color, it is a breath of fresh air to see another woman of color and to be able to see yourself in that person and to know, yep, she understands what I'm going through. And that means that I may ask questions differently, right, to them in that coaching session than maybe, my counterpart, maybe a Caucasian peer. Not to say that they aren't just as wonderful, but it just may be different. And so that goes back to Ted's question about how do you find that connection? Some people will be perfectly comfortable with a coach of any nationality, any background. Some may not be. You don't know what has happened in their past to make them maybe not feel comfortable and trusting working with a male or with somebody else, right? So it's really just figuring out how to make that connection and help them to feel comfortable again. So you can get into that space where there's that psychological safety, right? To just be yourself 100%.
Tynetta, I'm listening to you and I'm like, man, what is it like with your girlfriends, your friends? Like I know when they be like, hey, can you talk? I want to run something by you. I want to run this job. I'm dealing with this at work, or
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
dealing with this. So you're that friend. You're that friend.
So it's funny because there's kind of like that fine line where it's like, wait a minute, girl, should I be charging you for this session right now? Or no,
She want to pick a payment method.
right, right.
Right.
But
Right.
I will say like I love it, and going back to how I stumbled into coaching is because I've always been that person, right? They always called me like the mother of the group and taking
Mm,
care of everybody, and it's just in me. I love helping people. I love seeing people win.
mm,
It's funny because a few months ago, I shared a clip on my social media just talking about the power of complimenting another woman, right?
mm,
My mom was very intentional with raising my sister and I to never be afraid to compliment another woman, right? She didn't raise us to be jealous, to be haters, right? If anything, what she taught us was to sit back and observe, watch what it is that other people do. And you don't have to necessarily mimic it, but figure out how to make it your own. But never be afraid to give credit where it's due, right? Giving people their flowers. So it's just always been a part of me. I love to see people, like I said, I love to see them win. And if I can be a part, it just makes my heart full to know that I was able to assist you in getting to where you want to be in life.
No, that's great.
that's great.
So the theme of our episode today is the three critical roles that you have to fill in your professional network. So I think this is a good time for us to talk about it. So what are those three critical roles that people need to fill?
Right. So those three critical roles, and we've already really hit on them. It's the role of a mentor, or I'll say mentors, right? Plural. Is a coach, and also an advocate. And I think we talked a little bit about this. I would kind of combine an advocate as well as a sponsor, and we can get into what that means.
Hmm. Okay.
So you want to break down of the three?
Yeah, let's break it down.
Okay, got it.
Let's go. Let's go.
So
Break it down.
we talked a little bit already about that mentoring, right? It's really identifying those individuals who either have that experience or who have the knowledge to help you to get to where you want to be, right? And we talked about having that mentor bench, those individuals that look like you, don't look like you, and that can help you along the way. I always say if you're the smartest individual in your social circle, it's time to level up, right? You're doing something wrong. And so I think being able to reach out and step out of your comfort zone and look for people who can guide you is really beneficial. I talked a while ago before about who you get advice from. And so um, I thought it was interesting. I was working with a client who wants to be a millionaire, but she doesn't have any millionaire friends and she doesn't have any millionaire mentors. And so I'm like, well, who are you getting advice from? Well, that thousandaire is not going to help you get there, right? And so you don't go to your plumber asking them for electrical advice, right? So you got to think about who is it that you're talking to. So think about these mentors, think about your network, who's sitting at your table and giving you advice. I think it's important to realize that not everybody has your best interest at heart, right? And they're not always going to give you advice that's going to be beneficial to you. So just really thinking about who it is that you're surrounding yourself with and what those mentors are actually able to help you to achieve. We talked a little bit as well about coaching. identifying those individuals who you can really be vulnerable with. When it comes to coaching, being able to get deep down into your innermost thoughts, it takes time. And it takes somebody who has patience and who genuinely cares about your well being. Really thinking about that individual who is, as we stated before, is going to be non judgmental, and it's really going to ask you the right questions, but push you to the next level. It's not enough to just ask you those questions and to say, oh, that's great. I'm great. Glad that you came to that realization. That good coach is going to say, so what's next? What's next for you? How are you going to get there? How are you going to hold yourself accountable? Do you have an accountability partner? Do you have a plan? What's your deadlines? When are you going to make that phone call? Right? All of those things. And then we talked about that advocate / sponsor. So that advocate is that individual who's putting their name behind you, right? This is that individual who's going to vouch for you. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I know Eric, hands down, work with him. And these are all of the things that I know he's amazing at doing. You should hire him. No questions asked. That sponsor who, can also be in that advocate role as well, is that individual who's literally pulling you along the way. This is the person that's found that job and it's tapping your shoulder to tell you to apply, and it's telling this person, right? Yep, this is the individual that you want to hire. This is how you apply for this job. These are the things that you need to do. This is how you get there. Your sponsors are creating opportunities for you to be seen, opportunities for you to engage and to network. So I think it's important to have all of those roles. Now, I will say your mentor could also be a sponsor and an advocate, right? Those roles can overlap. Your coach is a little bit tricky. They could technically wear two hats, but that may get confusing, right? So you just have to be careful in how you're engaging with these different roles.
Yeah, I mean, I think this applies not just in, corporate America and job situations. I think it applies in business as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. So, from an entrepreneurial standpoint, right, I'll use myself for example, right? I had no intentions on being an entrepreneur. So I didn't do a whole lot of research to figure things out. But I was smart enough to know, hey, I need to start tapping on some shoulders and finding some individuals who already own businesses, who have been successful in different areas to get my own business coach. Right. I drink my own Kool-Aid, right, to make sure I get to the place where I need to be and understand and is asking me the right questions because I don't know what I don't know. So absolutely beneficial from that standpoint, right? I also have those mentors who have been coaches for years. So I have a mentor coach, right? I have a business coach. I'm definitely walking that talk so I can speak from experience to say, yep, I've been there, I've done that, I'm living it right now.
So when I'm talking about when I think about what you're saying here, I also think of we had Portia Pettiford on episode 346, and she's a vice president in the Marriott organization. And one of the experiences she mentioned she had was that she worked at another for another hotel before she got to Marriott, and she was saying,
Mhm.
"Hey, I'm trying to get promoted," and they said to her, "Well, sometimes you have to stop and smell the roses, and just be happy that you have the job you have." So if someone is in a, a a company like that or a culture like that,
Mhm.
it's possible that having a mentor, coach, and advocate still may not get them to where they need to be.
You're absolutely right. And sometimes the answer isn't just a mentor, coach, advocate. Sometimes this is just not the right company for you,
Yeah.
or it's not the right job for you, right? You can't try to force, this square peg into a circle. It just doesn't fit, right? It has to make sense. The other thing is that we have to be real with ourselves and really take an opportunity to self reflect and know what you bring to the table,
Mhm.
right? Um, you have to understand what your true strengths and areas of opportunity are. And you cannot just expect for somebody to carry you through. You have to do the work. So even if your mentor or your sponsors or your advocates help to get your foot in the door, it's your responsibility to make sure you keep your seat at the table. And so it was funny. I was going through some reels, and the statement was, "Don't sit at the table if you're not ready to eat." And I was just like, man, that's like
Mm,
mind blown, right?
mm,
Make sure
mm.
you're prepared. Make sure you come with, with your tools, with your silverware, and you know how to
Yeah.
get the job done, because people are going to test you and they're going to question you, and you need to make sure that you're ready to play.
Yeah, that's one thing. If I sit at the table, I'm gonna be ready to eat her.
Devour.
I'm ready to eat. I'm ready to go. I'm ready. Another question. So
Yeah.
let's say there's a high school, not high school, college graduate,
Hmm.
and he or she just got their entry level job in an organization, and they're trying to figure out how to kind of navigate, kind of get themselves established,
Hmm.
work on their trajectory and all of that. I mean, they're really excited, ready to go, but they're at the level one. Like
Hmm.
what type of guidance or thoughts you may be able to share for that individual?
I would say do your homework.
Mm,
Right? Do your homework. You need to understand what your company's mission is, your
mhm,
company's core values. You need to understand your job and what your roles and responsibilities are, right? And don't be too quick to assume that you're ready to be the CEO. You need to do the work, and you need to ensure that you're prepared, right? Um, I think that it's also important to kind of like take your time and also make sure you know what you want, right? Many times you set your sights on things only to realize that's not even the job or the company, right, that I want to be associated with. So it's really just taking your time and understanding what it is that you want. And you don't have to have all of the answers today, but don't be afraid to ask questions, right? Be humble. Realize that feedback is a gift. Figure out how to internalize. So instead of being on the defensive or taking things personally, even if you don't agree with the feedback that you're receiving, take a time and take your time and internalize, because there's probably some underlying truth in it, right? Take it as an opportunity to grow and to learn, right? I think that's the biggest thing. Don't be afraid to fail, right? Fail first and fail fast, and just recover as quickly as you possibly can. And be sure that you're learning from those mistakes so that you're not repeating them over and over again, right? You got to show these people that you're hungry and that you're willing to do the work. Um, I think one other big thing I will say that really drives me crazy is individuals who say they want to be promoted, but they don't really want to do the work. And they say things well, that's not in my job description. You don't pay me enough to do this and to do that. Well, that's why you're not advancing as quickly as
mm,
you probably should. A little bit of humility goes a long way, right?
mm.
So,
Yeah, that's a red flag for me when somebody would say that. Oh, that's not in
hmm
my job description.
hmm hmm
That's why I used to write other duties as a sign.
right,
That's right. That's right.
right,
So,
right.
so when this comes up, there it is.
Yeah. And the other thing is, and I will say for me in my career, it's a lot of times taking the jobs that nobody else wants,
Mm,
right? And knocking it out of the park. Because even if you only improve it 5%, it's better than where you found it. Right. And so for me, that was kind of like my niche. It's like, okay, what's the problem and what skills do I have and my ability to solve them? And that was my jam. I think I lost my light. There we go.
And what this is something I believe, Tynetta, you can help me. I believe you're always auditioning for your next level.
Absolutely.
Not just when you're sitting there interviewing, right? Because I can't tell you how many times, like I would early in my career, I would change companies, and then they would get some reference from somebody who worked in the company, and I had no idea this person was watching me.
Hmm.
mm,
Yep. And that's something that you want to keep in mind is that you're always being watched.
Hmm.
mm.
And you don't know who your boss is going to be in the future. So be careful. Your peers are watching you, and the supervisors above you are watching you. But your peers may become your supervisors in the future, and they're going to remember the things that you did. And for me, it's important that you treat the CEO and the custodial staff with the same level of genuine kindness and respect. You are being watched, and people will remember you for your character. And I firmly believe that people will give you a chance and are more willing to take a step on faith with you, even if you don't have all of the qualifications, because you are genuinely a good person, because you're willing to grind, right, and do the work and to learn. And those things are important. And like you said, we just keep saying over and over again, people are watching all the time, right? The spotlight is always on.
Absolutely.
But I feel like Tynetta need to put her Cash App up there, boy. She out there giving out nuggets. So if you want to send Tynetta something, it's $ Theodore
Please do.
Felsen. I'm joking, but yeah, this is great stuff.
Yeah.
And those of you that are watching, as I see people logging on, feel free if you've got a question or a comment for Tynetta, please put it in the comment section. We'll get it answered. So I'm curious, in your role, I'm sure people are just always asking you questions all the time. What's a question that you don't get asked that you wish people would ask you?
Oh, that's a good one. I don't think I've ever thought about that. What's a question that people don't ask? Yeah, you may have stumped me on that one. You
So
know, maybe
I
it is.
will say this, Tynetta. A lot of people get stumped with that one.
Yeah,
Yeah. So
and so maybe it's actually the conversation that we just had, right, with those other duties as assigned. Right, is really figuring out how to maximize that, and how to step out of your normal day to day to really be able to showcase your talent, skills, and abilities on that next level, while still being able to be successful in your daily job. Right, I don't get a lot of people who ask me about that. It's very specific. This is my problem right now, but I think maybe I would love to have more conversations on how to be more proactive in establishing a plan, right, to get to that next level. I don't see people doing a lot of strategic planning, not for their lives, right? Not for like, what is your strategic plan for yourself? I don't see a whole lot of people who actually have a plan.
I would agree with that. That's a great answer, actually. It's good. Awesome. I think people need to think strategically and be intentional, right? Okay. Well, good. All right. So we are now at Ted's favorite part of the show.
Uh-oh.
It's called Write This Down.
I do not like this part of the show at all.
This is where we each go around and we leave at least one takeaway from today's episode that people need to write down so they can level up. Tynetta, you're the guest of honor. What do the people need to write down from this episode?
Oh, so I really think what they need to write down was the theme of the show today. If you don't already have it, go out and get yourself a mentor plus, a coach, and an advocate, right? You need a strong bench across the board. And I will say again, if you are the smartest person in your network, it is time to level up and do things differently.
Yep. No, I think those are definitely key things to write down. All three of those roles and what you just said. Fantastic. Thank you. All right, Ted.
Tynetta's a tough act to follow. There's so many things that were said on this show, but I think that whole thing about your auditioning for your next role, I think that's a real key piece right there, right? Because again, that I have a I have a friend who was telling me that she recently was contacted by a former coworker of hers that is now in a senior position at a company, and it was like, hey, are you interested in this opportunity? Right? Nobody's going to want to pull you to another organization or if they don't think that you were a high performer when they interacted with you. Right? So it's so important for you to know that you're always kind of auditioning, for that next position. Even sometimes when you feel like you may want to give someone a piece of your mind, is it really worth it? Right? Is it really worth it? Or, I'm not going to take on that extra project. Right? Or, so open to collaboration. Right? What are those things that are going to make anyone in that organization say, yeah, whatever, right? Whether they're giving you a reference, right? Because like you said, Eric, at the, the individual that spoke on your behalf and you didn't even know that person was watching you, right? You know, or that person, as I mentioned, that goes to another company and reaches out to you and says, hey, are you interested in this position? Right. So I think just knowing that you're always auditioning for the next, you should just have that mindset, right? That you're always auditioning for that next. I think was a very something I think that you should definitely write down.
Yeah, no, that's great, Ted. Man, that's those are words. You have to pretend like the camera is always running
Yeah.
and the microphone is always on.
Yeah.
All right, good
Gonna
stuff.
do what you gonna do now, Eric? Tynetta now. We on the road. What you gonna do? Come on, come
That's
on
two
in.
two
Come
tough
on
acts
in.
to
Come on
follow.
in, man. Come on. What you
Well,
got?
that's our show for this week. You know, we're gonna move this right along, y'all.
That's right. The
Y'all
time
did
is
too.
up. Time is up.
Y'all were too great with it. So, but no, I mean, just the idea. You know, you talked about the mentor, the coach, and the advocate. I think I want to just highlight just that advocate piece. I think you should always be kind of keeping your antenna open up and looking for people that can help you to get to that next thing. I think sometimes, you know, when you're a type A personality, your greatest strength can be your greatest weakness, right? I can just do this. I can make this happen. But knowing that you need advocates, you need people that can help you, people that can make introductions and turn like a cold, what would be normally a cold lead, into a warm relationship, right? Because they're saying, hey, yes, I worked with Tynetta. She would be great for this project. You should definitely consider her. So I think the write this down part is really be on the lookout for people who can advocate on your behalf. And like I thought Tynetta made it a brilliant point that sometimes your advocate can be a mentor. That whole 6 degrees of separation. I truly believe if you really wanted to meet Oprah Winfrey, right? There's probably somebody that who is that knows her or is connected to her one way or another. That whole idea of 6 degrees of separation, but it all starts with keeping your eyes open and keeping your antenna up for those potential advocates. So write
I
that
love that.
down.
I love that. And let me add to your write down with it when it comes to advocates. The other piece is follow through. Follow through, right? Don't let people put their name behind you and then you don't execute and do what you're supposed to do. So make sure you do your part. That's how you continue to grow, and you'll have more advocates who will continue to come on board because they know that when they hear your name, they know you're about business.
Yep. And we have Stacy Dance Connor who's commenting. She says, someone is always watching what you're doing and saying. That is very true. Awesome. Okay. So I know you have a special workshop that you've got coming up, Tynetta. You want to tell the people about?
I do. I actually have two. So this weekend at Coppin State University, I'm doing a mind-body connection. And it's really like focusing on that whole person and truly understanding that what you put into your body and your physical activity, how that plays a part in how you're able to show up, right, in your personal life and your professional life. Talking about that mental fog, talking about that fatigue, talking about, you may get a little bit snappy, you may be hangry. I'm sure you've seen those Snickers commercials where you turn into Aretha Franklin, right? I've had those moments where I've had to kind of figure things out. And so we're going to talk about that, right? We're going to walk through an actual nutrition plan, and we're going to do a workout. I'm partnering with Lamont Connor with Lamont Fitness, and he actually has a 10-a-day smoothie cleanse book. So each participant is going to get a copy of that book, and we're going to start off that following week. We're going to kick that 10-day challenge off, right, just before we go into the holidays, because we already know what's going to happen come Thanksgiving and Christmas with the food, right? So just helping to make healthy choices, especially as we get older, to take care of our bodies and understand how that all connects. So that's the first thing. And so you can check that out if you want to get tickets on Eventbrite. It is this Saturday, the 26th of October from 10 to 1 p.m. again at Coppin State University. And then in December, I'm going to be offering a cohort, right, of women who want to work on strategic planning for 2025, right? We are throwing away New Year's resolutions and we are going to work together to create strategic plans to help these women achieve their goals in 2025, right? Walking through exactly how you identify what you want, establishing those milestones, creating plans and putting things in place, and also not only creating individual accountability, but creating but creating accountability partnership within that cohort, right? To help to check in and to make sure we get these ladies to where they want to be. So those are the two things that I'm offering that's coming up on the horizon in 2024.
Y'all better get with Tynetta boy. Tynetta boy is a powerhouse. Y'all
I'm
get
telling
that
you.
strategic plan going. Not no New Year's resolution, the strategic plan.
That's right.
Cause you know every
Awesome.
year, cause you know every year we say we're gonna lose that weight.
Yep. And by January 5th, done.
Lose that weight. Get on that diet, join that gym, and get a nice outfit and go in there and take selfies.
That's right.
Take selfies.
And so, if someone wants to find out more about your coaching service, what's the best way for them to connect with you on that?
Yep. So multiple ways. You can find me on Instagram at Unlock You Coaching. You can find me on Facebook and LinkedIn under my name, Tynetta Dance. You can visit my webpage at www.unlockyoucoaching.com, or you can email me at Tynetta, that's Tynetta, at unlockyoucoaching.com.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for everything you've shared. This has been a awesome episode of the 30-minute hour podcast. And then speaking of sharing, for those of you listening and watching, don't forget to share the show.
Get a show.
That's right. Don't just keep great information to yourself. Make sure you share the show. And don't forget that you can also follow us and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Hit the subscribe button, follow button. That way you never miss a future episode of the 30-minute hour podcast. Well, that's our time for this week. Once again, Tynetta Dance, thank you for
Thank you for
everything that
having me.
you shared.
Great
Until next
show.
time, have a great one.
Have a great
Thank you. Have a great evening.